So tell me about your certification program from Northwest.
Well, it's
Northwest.
so the Pacific Northwest Ballet is basically pretty much a balancing company. Peter Bowl is the artistic director, and there's many companies that are kind of sister companies of New York City Ballet, based on the fact that the heads of those schools or those companies, those directors actually came from New York City Ballet, which are most of them actually. And so I wanted to have my own fellowship with the School of American Ballet. And so I found that that was a perfect way to go and learn this syllabus even more and have to be tested on it and have conversations and classes with those teachers that are doing that. So there's a lot of teachers at Pacific Northwest Ballet that are from the School of American Ballet and New York City Ballet. So that's like why I chose that. It was a perfect opportunity. It wasn't that far away, and so that's what I did for that. Yeah.
And okay, great. What were kind of some of the things that they focused on that they really?
Well, they did a lot of things. They did each level. So you would watch a class, and then we would learn the class, and then we had to do the class like we were the students. That was really good. And then we'd watch the class again, and they had selected children for this whole 2-week program that we did that were specifically knew that age group. But we also talked about marketing, costumes, how to make costumes on a budget, the dance psychology, and marketing, of course. And they just used their marketing and shared with us their things. Gave us great ideas on how to make costumes cheaply by repurposing things like maybe girls' pants from H&M, and you change them out to elastic, and they look great on men. They look like nice jazz pants on men. They might not look like that on a girl. Stuff like that. Just really interesting things. And then so we just went through all their levels, and then towards the end, we actually worked with Peter Bowl and the trainees of the school and their upper levels. And we also took class with the company. And so that was great interaction, and just being able to do that.
Awesome.
Just diving straight in. Yeah.
You mentioned dance psychology, and also dance medicine and things like that have become very popular.
Yes, and we had a thing with the physical therapist there and a orthopedic surgeon that they use. The psychology thing was very interesting in that they talked a lot about the perfectionist child. And that's what we tend to see. Sometimes being a perfectionist is not a good thing in dance, because you have a hard time moving forward if you're not succeeding at something.
Overly critical.
Yeah, just overly critical, and then they can't move on. They have to perfect. Now they're behind, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. Sometimes a little bit of the gutsy, I don't know, I'm not sure is a good thing.
What did they suggest that you do with those perfectionist children? Because we do see in ballet and in dance, in general, we do see that personality.
Yes. It is a personality trait of a dancer. Talking about it, I think that's another one of my teaching styles. You were talking about that. I like to just be honest and go, I know you're feeling like this, or I know you're thinking that, or, and this also works with psychology. I like to tell them my failures. Like, I feel like this too. Like, they're like, well, this certainly, I go, me too. I have terrible fever. This is what I did, or work, talk to them about what's your struggles. I think that's, and so when you are talking to, maybe I had a girl that had anorexia, and the parents didn't recognize that. And so you have to find a way of not meddling in their family business, but also, how do you say, you can't say, well, you can't dance. How do you handle that? So I found a way by reaching out to a sibling that was also a dancer but it's like we had to handle it. I was an adult, sibling of the girl but it's so hard because, again, it's the parents, and they don't want to hear that their child isn't perfect or they're having problems. And it's usually the kids that are so good and so talented that have these issues of perfectionism, and it kind of carries sometimes over into eating disorders.
Yeah.
So it's serious.
Yeah.
You do have to let the parent know first that you notice it. And you just have to do it in such a careful way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a parent now that just wants her daughter to be a ballerina, and she struggles a little bit, but she's beautiful, but she might struggle a little bit as she goes through puberty with having the ideal, facility for ballet. And I just say, let's just see it to the end and see what happens. When I try to I can see that the parent's interfering. So I might use a day to talk about nutrition, not focus on that kid, but use it as a general, use my experience, say something, find a way to say it like it was an accident that you said it, or you just thought about something today if you notice something.
You suggest that maybe putting some posters or some numbers up of facilities or doctors or different, groups that work with those types of concerns and issues, and just having them so it's very visible in your studio.
I think that's important because it lets them know that you're aware that there are these issues.
So it's an inadvertent way of.
Yes, whenever I find an article like in Point Magazine or Dance Magazine that's about all of these things, I always would post them right up. And then you can just always put, if any of your children are struggling with these, please feel free to speak to,
Yeah, that is really.
Luckily, I have my mom, so it's a little better because she's like the grandma. So it's like, please speak with, please speak with Mrs. Kravenko about if you feel she's a little bit more. I panic more. Like I worry too much, but she just kind of, but it's hard.
Yeah. There's something that comes with the age, right? That's kind of a nice thing. That just is one of those wonderful serendipitous, qualities.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah.
We're getting there, but
yeah,
not yet, but kind of getting there. Well, great. So if you had a few last areas of advice for somebody who's wanting to go into teaching, or maybe even people who don't think they ever want to teach, but we all know that usually, if you're going to stay in the area of dance, if you're going to actually.
The best advice please get experience in the world of dance before you want to teach. You need to have some experience, like I said, where you paid your bills because you had a job, whatever it is, because you can bring so much more to it. I think that's super important. You need to have some life experience.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And
right. And people think, people might want to, that's their thing and they want to teach, but you'll be such a better teacher if you experience more of life and more
of dance.
Yeah. Actually working as a professional.
That one last thought just popped into my head is pick who you want to learn under. Go find a teacher that you want to be like, and then go take from them or
that's what I did. Yeah. Changed my life. Even and it's never too late. And when my teaching, we're going on, over 20 years now. And it was in the last 12 years, I was like, I just feel like there's something more that I need to know. And so that's when I started really seeking out even more. And I think it's right when you feel like you're the most successful, you're doing the right thing, then jump into the next thing. Go push yourself more, see what else is out there. And like we said at the beginning, is don't ever stop learning. Don't ever stop, always seek things and share that with your students. And if you see something you love, please share it with your students and just keep them inspired. And
make a plan, because I do want to say, shout out to you that you made a plan and you started going to New York City on a regular basis. How many times a year to train with New York City ballet dancers and their teachers? I made
it for the first 5 years. I'm like, I'm going every 3 to 4 months, no matter what. And I'm going to do that for 5 years. And then the relationships that I made and the people that I met, and it really helped me a lot. And my teaching mentor there, Willie Berman, was like, he's a really hard teacher. He's old school. And I liked that somebody was like going, what are you doing? It's like, it actually made me feel inspired. Like, yeah, what am I doing? I always felt bad doing that. Like, please help me, you know, or remembering what it's like to be a student again.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was in class, I was in New York. I was like, I don't know what, one of the times I was there, and I was like, I just started tuning out in class. I was like, oh, this is what the kids are doing. I couldn't concentrate. I was so tired and jet lagged. And I was like, and I don't care. You're all the way here. What are you doing? Like, I don't care. I'm just going to tune out. I couldn't. And I was like, oh, I see. And then I realized it's just temporary. All of those things are temporary. Sometimes you don't want to dance, but it comes back. I've lived long enough to know that every time I don't want to dance, there's another day I want to. So
that's great. That's great information. When you went and started this plan, when you made this plan that you were going to do this for 5 years at least, every 3 to 4 months
yes.
in New York, and to these wonderful teachers, how old were you, may I ask?
Well, I was in my 40s when I started doing this.
Okay.
Yeah, I had already taught all this time, and so I was in my 40s.
Yeah, late 40s.
And I had already choreographed and done a lot of things, but I just felt like there was more. I just like so hungry to know it.
So I love the idea that you started this journey, this new journey, you know, a little bit later. It's not that you don't have to think that I've lost this time, now it's over. I love that you went and found a new journey, and you found a road there. I mean, certainly there are things you couldn't do anymore, possibly, you know, those, you know, full length.
Of course, I can't do, yes, exactly. But man, I learned so much, like watching everybody.
Right.
To watch that, the reason why I say New York is for ballet, that's where you go to see all the stars and see what they're doing in class. And then when they're getting correct, when Alessandra Ferry gets 10 corrections in a class, and you're like, oh, all right. You know, and a lot of those teachers use the best people to do their corrections. You can really see it on a good person. And that's another thing I was going to say about teaching. Correct your best students in front of the other students, because then they can really see what it's supposed to look like. Sometimes when you correct young, you know, the one maybe that's not as experienced, everyone in the class is looking, thinking, I don't see a difference. So I sometimes will have my better students, I'll even kind of whisper in their ear and I go, don't do it very good this first time, and then I'm going to correct you. Like, can you use it as a tool? And that's good for them too. Oh, okay, I see, my arm's fine. Now it feels like something different. That's another great teaching tool. Always, and I notice they do that in New York. They correct the best person in the class.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And then you can see a change and you see it differently. And you look at it and you're like, oh, that looked really good. And then when they change it, they're like, oh my gosh, I thought it looked good, but now it looks so amazing. Now it's like another world.
And if they can take that and if they can do that,
yeah,
I can too.
Yeah, you can see a difference. Like you think something's good and then you see it another way and like, oh, now it's really good. That's like having, you know, the best ice cream, vanilla ice cream. It's like, this is the best vanilla I've ever had. And then you go like, no, this is now the best vanilla. No, like, this is the best. That's what it felt like for me.
Well, that's a wonderful note to end on. I love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate sharing your wisdom. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
See you in class next week.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.